Let's do it.
What's up, y'all? This is episode 12 of Conversation with Coomer. Hello, lovely viewers and peopleship. We are in beautiful, just kidding, beautiful New York City.
This is my hometown.
I don't know, somebody just started some like trumpets in the background or something. But just a PSA, there's going to be some people walking through. This is New York. That was bad. This is New York. It's going to be people. You might hear a little background noise, but listen for a heck of a conversation with the great Talon Smith. We are here in New York City in, what is this island called?
This is Little Islands.
It's called Little Islands. What was the term you used? Like for
It's
this
solar
style?
punk.
Solar
Yeah.
punk style. It's pretty cool. This is literally my first time in more than 10 years in New York. Talon's been great today, showing us around a bunch of different spots. And yeah, Talon, frankly, on a similar note, has also been all around the world. We met through a different community. Shout out Arlen Moore. And we were just talking about this the other day. We did an introduction where you're like, yo, I was ripping it, like you were ripping it. So I've got to like almost watch you as, you know, more or less we watch each other. So on that note, you're here in New York City, but what has been your path to get here and what are you doing now?
All right. Just like full story, origin story.
Bro, I mean, yeah, you don't have to tell me like, you know, when I was 3 years old, I love this blanket specifically, but like, yeah, bro, like, I mean, you started in college, right? If you want to rip from there, or like even what brought you to the online world?
Yeah, so in college, I was majoring in computer science and graphic design. You'll see why that interplays later. But I basically followed the traditional path in college. I was going to graduate a semester early. I was graduating at age 20. Like everyone's like, oh, prodigal son, like did really great in school. I worked an internship for 1.5 years, and they were like, hey, we're going to give you a job as soon as you graduate. I had a girlfriend I was going to move in with in Miami. Like, life was good. My last semester, 2 months before I graduated, the company lost a big client, and they're like, hey, Talon, like, sorry, but we can't offer you a job after graduation. And I was like, all right, cool, like, I'll go apply elsewhere. I still have, like, a place I'm going to live in. I have my girlfriend. Everything's cool. I graduated. It was amazing. 2 weeks after I graduated, I was back here for the holidays, and my girlfriend, she calls me up. It's kind of cool because I was looking at that view during this phone call, and she's like, yeah, like, we shouldn't be together. You shouldn't move in. And, like, basically within that 3-month period, my life fell apart, where I was like, all right, cool. I don't know what to do. Like, I had a job. I had a place to live. I'm now stuck on my parents' couch because I don't even have my own bedroom at home. And that's where I joined the community, and, like, it was a bunch of people who were just like, we believe in your goals. My goals were to become a travel influencer, travel the world. That's like my purpose at that point. I ended up doing that, traveled to, I think, 18 countries in 18 months, did a full lap around the world, came back, and I've lived so many different lives in that point, like basically 4 or 5 different lifestyles. And now what I'm doing is I have a web design agency, and that's something that just came naturally because of that major. I had those skill sets, and as I was traveling, I was like, shit, how am I gonna make money? And it just came out naturally where people were hitting me up from all around the world. They're like, oh, like, what'd you go to school for? I'm like, oh, I did this. And they're like, oh, can you make me a logo? Can you make me a website? And it just ended up being this synchronicity throughout like my whole career that just led me to this point. And now, honestly, like when I joined that program, I was like, all right, this is 10 years down the line, I'm gonna have the agency. And it happened within 2 years. So I love what I do every day, and that's the most important thing to me.
Beautiful. And let's actually talk about that, because this is frankly not something like we've discussed on previous conversations. But the word I think of and has been more kind of replete in like understanding these scenarios and the way we live that comes to mind is integration. Mm-hmm. And so talk about that. Like, what was that process like of like, you're going through all this travel and to be where you are now? Like, that's like, you have one identity, you're doing a bunch of different things and kind of changing hats or switching up or whatever else. What is that process like of like figuring out, how was that for you of figuring out, hey, this is what I've been doing, this is what I want to do, but this is where I am now? Yeah,
it was like effortless for some reason. Like, it was just something that came about naturally. And what I did was it's something that we definitely share in common, where we're always trying to figure out how can we provide value to others. I remember our first phone call together, you ended off the call being like, how can I provide value to you? And I'm like, I'm going to stick with that and like ask that to other people. And no matter where I go, no matter who I'm talking to, I'm like, how can I make their lives better in any way, shape, or form? And that's kind of the biggest integration, because I knew the more value I gave out, the more would come back. Just the laws of karma.
Fire. And actually, I want to point that out too, that we don't really do this, but that was a bar. And specifically, when you are on, and you said it yourself, like when you're doing what you love, what you feel you're supposed to be doing, when you're on the right path, that's the way, frankly, it should feel. Is like you flow.
Yeah.
It's literally a flow, right? Like you flow from maybe you were doing this, but then it's like, okay, I naturally know this guy, and these people are asking me. You're like in the midst of you're wanting to travel, you found the next opportunity unfolded before you.
Yeah.
Right? And so like that's something to really note too, is like it's supposed to be like that when you're in line, and that's why we seek that. I mean, like bro, you're in congruency, you're in compass too. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like, yeah, but like, nah, dude, like you're living it, which is fire
Yeah.
too. So
It's that's
just an aside there.
That's how purpose works.
Yeah.
My purpose, like all I could think about for a year from when I joined that program to when I was doing it was travel, 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 travel. And then once I got to the end of that arc, I was like, what now? And it naturally came about. I'm like, all right, focus all in on the business. And who knows, a year from now, it could not be that. It could be starting a family. It could be travel again. It could be maybe starting a nonprofit. And it'll naturally come apart like layers of an onion.
And so actually, let's hit that. I know you just gave more or less generalizations of a bunch of different possibilities, but when you look to your vision, you know, maybe not tomorrow
Yeah.
or maybe not even a year, what is in that for you?
For me, I just want to impact the most amount of people possible. Like that's the priority, and that's something we've talked about. Like family's on there for sure, but I grew up here. I was lucky, very, very fortunate to grow up in like an affluent neighborhood and everything, but like right next door, I'd spend all my time skateboarding in Chinatown, where people are homeless, doing drugs on the street, and I had that dichotomy, and I always wanted to help those people. And even traveling, like I'd travel to places like Portugal where I got to like live life as a rock star. And then I'd go to Kenya and see people who are like, oh my gosh, you have so much, can you give me a little bit? And I just want to give as much as I can to the world. And like the goal is help 2 billion people somehow. And now come about, the current path for that is partner with some big, probably Fortune 500 company to do something radical. But I'm even talking to some friends like all around the world being like, all right, we have ideas for certain products that will help people mentally, that will help people with their health, vitality. So just seeing which one of those really blast off.
Sweet. And then, that's pretty incredible right there. There's you guys can you show? Like, so it's literally a sailboat with the sun down. That's what we're seeing. So be jealous. Be blessed and you can find it too. But dude, that like I was like, whoa, that's a view. Back to on that note of like where you are now and what you're doing and everything, like how did that, people were asking, how did you take that from, oh, this is something like I can do and I have a skill for? Like you went to school for graphic design.
Yeah.
How did that eclipse more or less, or evolve rather, into this is what I'm doing to support myself? Because that's where like, you know, so many people out here are like hobby or whatever else, side hustle. You've successfully managed to bring that to full business, supporting yourself in literally New York City. Yeah. Right?
It's surreal to like hear those words because it's just like, what the hell? But so I always thought before we met, I always thought I was going to be an employee. And like I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going to work for some big company. Like that'll be my life. And it goes back to what I was saying before, just always providing value. And I luckily had a skill that other people wanted. And people DM me all the time. They're like, how do you travel? How would you start your own business and do that? And the first thing I do is like ikigai, basically like, what can you bring to the table that other people want? What do you enjoy doing? Because it's like, I love my life. I love doing what I'm doing every single day. And people have asked me, like, if you only had 3 months to live, what would you do? And I'm like, exactly that. I'd be with you right now. And like, basically nothing would change. So find that ikigai. So 4 sections of that would be probably what you can give the world, or what the world needs, what you're good at giving, what you want to give, and then what are people willing to pay for. Those 4 things, and then it's a hard exercise to do, but there's gonna be some overlap, and even if you overlap 2 of those circles, that's progress, and you just go with that for a little bit.
Sweet, beautiful. And then it's questions that I ask everybody, and frankly, dude, you've been like, you do a killer job about talking about like specifically like your lens and your perspective, which is not everybody, like a lot of people aren't as good. They'll give like super ambiguity and ambiguous responses rather, right? But like, I love the way you talk about the way you've experienced things. It's really cool and insightful into like, this is the way it happens. So Thanks.
That's what I'm doing
But,
right here. I'm
yeah,
providing
bro.
them value.
Yeah.
Like, they want to watch
Yeah,
and figure
it
out how they can
sucks.
go travel. Like, that's it.
So what would you say, maybe on top of, or feel free to repeat, with the life you've lived and with who you are, what are the unique parts that you feel you do best that have allowed you to get to the points where you are?
Definitely my lens for the world. I feel like I have a lot of diversity. Like, as I said, growing up in New York, being able to travel, even my skin, like my race, I can check off everything in the race bucket except for Hispanic. Like, literally Asian, African, white, everything. And like, people have come to me and they're like, you're an evolved human being. And I think that's part of my purpose, is to like help humans evolve past whatever it is they're going through right now. The question was more so like, what do I uniquely bring to the table?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
or what is just an aspect of you?
Yeah, so definitely that combination of right, left brain, I think. Like, if I was to self-diagnose myself, but I don't know.
Artist, businessman.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah. Like,
I agree.
I honestly, if you asked me in high school what I'd be doing for a career, I thought I was going to be a computer programmer. I did not realize art was going to be part of that. And luckily, I got to intertwine the two in a beautiful, beautiful way. But yeah, some people lean towards one side or the other, and it's figuring out like where in your mind it lies, and also just like if something intrigues you, go all in on it and just be like, right, like let me study this. Like, I was doing graphic design for fun when I had homework to do, and I'd be like, let me not do my homework for college and let me just like design t-shirts. So
Fire.
yeah,
Fire. And then another, really to kind of wrap things out, what is something that you feel free to answer, something you'd tell a younger Talon, or just you'd tell someone on the come up? What message would you give them?
I've thought about this a lot, because like one of the podcasts I listen to, it's one of the final questions are like, what do you tell your younger self? I say to my younger self, do not stop YouTube. Like, I used to have a YouTube channel back in the day. I'm like, if I just like kept that going, I don't know where I'd be right now. I'd be killer. But I would say a quote that I like to live by, that I heard when I was, I think, 9 or 10, was, I'm my favorite skater.
Oh, that's cool.
And I heard it from like when I was going to skateboard camp. But what that means to me is, whatever you do, be your favorite person that does it. Like, you play basketball, you should be your favorite basketball player. Like, forget Kobe. I know you're a huge Kobe fan, but like, there should be no other person you prefer to see win than yourself, and no other person that you prefer to see play the game rather than yourself. And if you love to see yourself play the game, you're going to play the game at infinitum. That's what it's about.
That's a bar. That was sweet. And then, yeah, where can people find you?
I'm mostly active on Instagram, talon.in.color. And if you want to check out my website, I have to do a rebrand. It's like 3 years old by now, but it should be rebranded within like the next couple of months, talonsmithdesign.com. Trying to think, I am active on YouTube somewhat. I'm going to put more content out there, more content out on Instagram. But yeah, you can see it also, everything basically at Hoobie. I forget I even have a Hoobie link. So hoo.be/Talon, you'll find everything.
Bye.
All right,
Great
solid,
stuff,
dude.
brother. Good stuff.
That was fun.
Thanks for watching, y'all. Be blessed.